Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are now getting closer to the very end of August of 2023, and given that Disney is going through a lot of trouble right now, not just with Snow White 2024, but also a lot of their upcoming live-action remakes that are still in different phases of development, whether it be early development, post-production, or even, of course, if you want to count pre-production, where a lot of scripts have not even been written yet, but are in the brainstorming process right now. But what's intriguing about everything that's happening between both Bob Iger and the board is exactly how they are heading into ongoing damage control surrounding Snow White 2024 ahead of its release by March of 2024. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now, we know one major thing about this film is that it has a lot of wrong with it, given about what Rachel Zegler has said before in the past that resurfaced that really caused a lot of trouble for Disney, along with the Seven Dwarfs getting leaked photographs out there that Disney in the beginning absolutely denied that they were real, and then they backtracked and said, yeah, they are real photos, but they weren't photographed by Disney photographers. That also put Disney, into a lot of heat with the fans. But what's even all the more, I think, problematic is a full-blown plan that Bob Iger has right now that has been presented to the Disney board on a strategy to cancel Snow White 2024 from ever releasing in theaters next year. Let's get into it. Now, we know that Bob Iger is somebody that does not know how to run the show. He is the worst Disney CEO of all time in my book, as far as I'm concerned. Now, given that Bob Iger and the board are in a state of panic over the Snow White movie ahead of its March release, one major development has to do with a plan that is being formed by Iger that has been passed down to many of the board members. Now, currently discussions are being held on a plan to canceling Snow White based on a couple of conditions that have been explained by Iger to the board. Now, Bob made a proposal that if the official trailer debut meets certain expectations, they will keep the film on the current slate and release it in theaters. If the trailer fails that bad, however, and meets a terrible new low as far as fan reception and feedback goes, Iger has made a proposal to cancel this film entirely and to never release it in theaters and to give the film a hiatus and then eventually releasing it direct to video and or Disney Plus first. The plan by Iger to cancel this film from ever appearing in theaters is something that is seriously now being discussed between Iger and the Disney Board of Directors, and how many of those members are beginning to slowly but surely agree with Iger on this approach. Other members feel they should release the film anyway to make some revenue back, even if advertised as a disaster in the making, as some of the profits that went into the budgeting of this film would come to some use. Now, let me pause here, because this is where things, I think, go downhill. Not only is this a terrible plan by Bob Iger, it makes absolutely no sense. It's not even a true cancellation in the grand scheme of things like what happened with Batgirl. What happened with Batgirl was they canceled that movie to cut their losses. They knew that this movie wasn't going to work, and there were other factors, by the way, that went into play. And look, I support Brendan Fraser all the way. I think that he did a phenomenal job in the movie The Whale. A very emotional movie. I think he's a fantastic actor. I think he would have done a great job in a DC movie. But let's just face the facts here. It was a blessing in disguise for that movie to get locked in a vault somewhere and never see the light of day. So Batgirl is a little bit different because, yes, they canceled it from releasing in theaters, but they also canceled it to the point where it's never going to be seen. That's at least what Brendan Fraser said on, I believe it was the Howard Stern show, correct me if I'm wrong. He said, yeah, it's locked in a vault and nobody's ever going to see this thing as far as he knows. In this scenario, Bob Iger just wants to cancel this movie altogether from ever seeing the light of day in theaters, and then taking a very long while, a hiatus, of just letting this movie and its focus, fizzle out, and then eventually just release it on direct-to-video or put it on Disney Plus, whichever way first. That, I think, is their overall strategy to kind of bring the movie out under people's noses and just kind of like let it exist and see how many people just check it out for themselves. But overall, the fact that they are relying heavily on the trailer reception, the feedback, if you will, is huge. Because they all know what this movie is going to be like. They know that this movie is going to be iconic, and not in a good way, but in a very negative way. And it could very well mark itself down as the worst movie ever made by Disney. So let's get to the next big thing about this development here, alright? So, on top of this, the plan to cancel this film from ever releasing in theaters is going to be discussed between IGER and the board again during this month of September, or the next month of September, within the first week of their approach as they get closer to D23, which is when they intend to release the official trailer to witness the fans' reception. They are also trying to repair the damage that Rachel Zegler had done with her resurfaced interviews, where some things that she said reportedly went off script and were things that she did not get coached about on what to say and or how to answer revolving questions around this movie. All in all, it's a nightmare for Iger and the board, with Snow White facing becoming the worst Disney movie ever made, at least live action speaking. Now, what's interesting about Iger, and I think a lot of you need to be aware about this guy, is the fact that he does lie a lot. This guy will say anything that he has to say to make you appear or feel like they appear like they are very confident about where they're going for 2024 and beyond. We all have to know that in that earnings call, he dodged so many questions. A lot of questions, including one of the biggest ones of all about selling Disney, to a different entity. He kind of just slapped that question to the wayside and just said, yeah, let's not get into that right now. But when we look at stuff like this whole entire scenario that's happening behind closed doors between Iger and the board, and this plan, this terrible plan, mind you, that is so mediocre, to cancel this movie from theaters, is absolutely insane. I mean, it's not going to fix anything, even if it does eventually come to Disney Plus and or, let's say, for example, direct-to-video like Blu-ray. It's going to fail, and it's going to fail hard. And I think what they're trying to do, or at least what Bob Iger's trying to do as like the last resort, is, canceling this movie, but they also want their work to be out there. They want people to at least see it and see what fans think after the backlash has fizzled out over time. That's basically their strategy, or his strategy, that growing numbers of board members are beginning to accept and agree with him on. So look, there's a lot of problems coming out of this film. It's not just about Rachel Zegler and the Seven Dwarfs, but it's also about how Disney's mismanagement with this movie and what they threw into the film, and their overall ideology, their view on exactly what this movie had to be about, and how it really destroyed the source material as well. That's what it's really all about at the end of the day, too. So anyway, guys, drop a comment below, fill me below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.